Good evening. It's 4 o'clock. I'll call this meeting of the Executive Committee to order. We are all here except for Supervisor Schultheis, who is on vacation and excused. This meeting was posted by the clerk's office in accordance with the appropriate rules. We'll rise for a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes from our January 15th meeting are posted. Are there any corrections to those minutes? That being said, we'll let them stand as posted. Our first order of business is an update on the UWM Washington County campus. Microphone.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to report this afternoon that activity surrounding the sale has increased significantly, especially in the last about 24 hours or so. And I have a few updates this afternoon that I think you'll be very pleased to receive. The agreement for the county to buy out the city's portion of the campus was signed today by Chairman Schleif. It's now over at the city for the city administrator to sign it as well. The takeaway from that is that we've reached an agreement on all points with the city, and now it's a matter of just finalizing the paperwork. The certified survey map was also signed today by the chairman. It's back in the city's hands. Right now, they're preparing the necessary easement documents. Those should end up being recorded, we figure, by Monday, Tuesday next week. We will complete the deeds transferring the property and cut the check. We'll schedule a closing date very soon, but that deal is well underway, on its way to being completed now. In terms of the sale to Ozaki Christian School, which I believe is now known as Faith Ridge, their attorney had reviewed our agreement that we'd sent to them for the proposed sale. They sent a version back with very, very minor tweaks to it, some very minor things. We reviewed those things. We had a couple of minor suggestions, the language that they proposed, and that agreement was sent back to them in the last couple of days as well. But again, we're very, very close to finalizing that sale as well. So as I stand here today, I think there's every reason to be encouraged about where we're at. And I think that the finalizing these contracts is a big step, but we're almost there. We're almost at the finish line.
Thank you. That's very good news.
Any update on the state?
I have nothing to say about that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Our next item is the Brownfield Assessments Funding Request for Synergy Ops at the Regalware site. A motion and a second, please. Supervisor Schwab, Supervisor Kelling.
Good afternoon. So today we have a request for the county assessment fund, not to exceed $11,000. It's for a phase 1 environmental site assessment for the Synergy Ops Regal Holdings site. The phase 1 will be conducted only on the subparcels A, B, and C that is on the map that was enclosed. And that collectively makes up the north site of what we've been working on with the Washington County Redevelopment Corridor. Regal Holdings has agreed to pay the 20% match, which would be up to $2,200, and then site redevelopment would be $8,800 balance. Do you have any questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
I'll add that I did add in the SRC meeting question that what's the order of this? And I learned that we have to do this before the sale of the property can be done. So
yeah.
Anyone?
All right, fine. Not that I have to, but are we expecting anything? I mean, was there anything previously on that particular area? I don't know that there was.
I don't believe so. I'd have to check the old ortho photos, but I don't believe so. And the phase one ESA will look at that.
That's it.
So we need to vote on that.
Mhm.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
our next item is the new HSD PAC building architectural funding request. Motion and a second, please. Supervisor Shadran, Supervisor Schwab. And the presentation will be by Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon. What you see before you is a request for proposals for architectural services for the potential new human services building and morgue. What we're looking at doing is going out for the RFP over the next next several months. And what we're doing is bringing that into three different phases. One is I'll call it the space needs analysis to make sure we get the right size of building, location, all that stuff. Once we do that, then we go into the design phase, finish the design and get the bid documents ready. And then the third phase is obviously during construction. We're not asking for funding today, but we are letting you know that we are kind of moving down that path towards this new building. So as you start going down the path, the further you get down the path, the rock rolling down the hill, the harder it is to stop. So want to make sure that the committee is more than aware that we're looking at this is kind of step one. There's no cost to this right now, but come in the May meeting, county board, hopefully an executive meeting right before that, will become a cost for the architectural services. By doing it this method way, we would know exactly what the architectural costs would be. So you have those up front. We're going to ask for building prices, examples. Again, we're hoping for we're going to put it out publicly for architects. It's not just where we have 7 firms that we've worked with, but I was just going to go out to the general public of the architects out there through a program called Quest. So hopefully we'll get a lot of good quality candidates in to put a request for proposals in. But that way we'll have architectural fees associated with potential building costs as well. So you kind of know before you approve those architectural fees, what kind of costs you could be associated with down the road with that construction. So with that, certainly happy to answer any questions, but we're looking for a request for proposals for architectural services, bringing that feedback to you again, executive committee before the May meeting, if possible, and then to the full county board in May for those costs.
just a question, I guess, educate me, because I
Sure.
don't know.
Yep.
When we're doing a building like this, are we putting in the sizes, or the amount of space that we feel we're gonna need both now and for the future? How do you determine or look at
Yes,
those things?
Part of the RFP, a big part of the RFP is a space needs analysis. There was one done, I'll call it done with the last master plan, but that was not really scrutinized too well and looked at. It was more or less this is what we would like to have versus a need. And with AI coming on board and everything else, looking at and the work from home options as well out there, really looking at what is that space needs looking like now and into the future as best as we can. Right, we'll all do our best to predict it, just like when we do the space needs analysis for this building, going, okay, what does that look like now, but into the future. Certainly, we're not going to build the building twice as what we would need, but we will be looking at if there is a need for expansion, how we would potentially accommodate that into the future.
Yeah, and you touched exactly on what I was thinking. 2 things, AI, how is that gonna change our workforce within the next 10 to 20 years? And as well, I mean, even our master plan from only a few years ago, look at all the reductions and changes
Right.
and revisions we've already done, and it's not that old comparatively speaking when you're talking the age of a building.
Right.
And if we're gonna make this investment, I just wanna make sure that we're right sized, not overbuilt, but not underbuilt, and I realize that it's a fine line, but that's something that I will definitely, in particular, interest to, as we move through this process.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Mr. Executive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to reiterate something Scott said and really emphasize it because I think this has got the potential to be such an important decision point for you. This is, as Scott alluded to, you're not, putting anything in stone by blessing us going through with this RFP process, but it's a ton of work for staff to go through that. So I would say it's kind of like putting it on paper that, yep, we're doing this. And I want to be clear, while I don't think to the astute question about like the size, what do we actually need compared to even what we're using today? While I don't think we probably need anything close to what we've currently got, if we were to build something remotely close to the size that will be used once all the departments are moved over here, our conversations have been approximately a 75,000 square foot building. You're probably talking around $40-ish million. And the estimated amount of architectural fees alone is $2.5 million. So, those are huge numbers, not to scare, but like, this is serious. Like, let's not go down a path if we're not serious. Now, I think to your even more astute point about this building and the master plan just in 3 years, we were able to significantly cut down size. I anticipate we're going to be able to do that and will deliver that. But even if we delivered 75% of that building, it's still 30 million and it's still close to 2 million in architectural fees. So these are big numbers in the midst of other massive projects that we're talking about, like fire and EMS, which is going to be a potentially huge levy change, catching up on budgets of past where we've been holding the line. Those are big levy changes. Like, let's not take it lightly. But I don't want to overreact either, to your point, but this is your decision even just today is a big decision.
I want to respond. You do have us scared. And I also had a question. I think Scott sort of already answered, but in the last master plan that we looked at 5 years ago or more, it did have that building and it had some design elements. If I'm to understand what you said, it's of no use to us now. We're gonna start from scratch, pretty much.
Yeah, there were some concepts that were okay in there, but even the layout where like the door was to enter the door going, really the lack of handicap stalls there, the lack of a drop-off space, for instance, you look at that going, that's really not for that building purpose is needed for, right? With human services and ADRC and vet services, you need to make sure that that front door is easily accessible. And so just from that standpoint alone, look from an engineering standpoint going, they really missed the mark on that. And I think there's a lot better improvement we can do to make sure that we accommodate the citizens that need to get into that building in a much easier and safer way, especially where they had the entrance to the west side of the building, which is right where now the parking for the Justice Center and now the Government Center is. Kind of a little lack of forethought on that. So you can imagine you can't have all these people. If you've been there recently, those first two lots are full over there on a daily basis. So to have it more, it just didn't make a lot of sense. So interior too, there's some layout concerns that Ms. Driscoll put out together as well. So certainly stuff we got to look at and make sure we're doing it right by the citizens too that are going to use that building.
Thank you. You talked already. Somebody else gets a turn.
Oh, my turn? Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Aaron. You were talking about Nick taking this next step, but with what we have going on with next generation housing and using that land up over there, it's kind of important that we move forward with this.
Yes.
It's a big dollar amount, but I think in the long run, we kind of thought about the budget for it anyway already, right?
Yes, and I think we have a responsibility on our side to come back to you with some of those numbers a little bit tighter, especially now that Deb has done some preliminary work. I have some work to do to go and talk to some developers as well, not just about that one piece, but the entirety of this corridor and the campus redevelopment plan to really, to your point, like nail down, okay, if this is, let's just say it's a $30 million building instead of a $40 million building, well, what's the ROI? Now, maybe it's 50 years, which, as I said to a staff member, not just a few hours ago, like, yeah, it's 50 years, but the county's going to be here forever. So, but nonetheless, like we should have that information at least as close to some semblance of reality as we possibly can going in. And that is the real backdrop to the whole conversation. If we can get as much back on the tax roll as possible, I mean, we make the money back in perpetuity. Perpetuity is a long time.
And the need for human services is not gonna go
It's
away.
not gonna go away.
That's right. But to Scott's point, I do want to underline this. The conversation about AI, we literally just held a cabinet meeting earlier today. Like the pace at which it's changing is so fast. Like 6 months ago, we wouldn't have thought to sit in a room and say, how could this change us in just 5 years? We were probably thinking maybe like 10. It's not 10 or 20. It's 3 to 5, and that might be too long. So again, that work from home, what other components, how do we leverage the campus over at UW with Faith Ridge? How do we leverage the building that we currently have for sale? There's other pieces of property that Scott's looking at other than just immediately adjacent to this building that we currently own. All of that has to be thought through. At the same time, as I've encouraged Scott, I think we want this off the ground, literally and figuratively, in 2028, so that it's got some endpoint. The other thing is, I don't want this to go on and on and on and on. At some point, staff needs to have certainty so they can do the work they're actually here for, not just planning and moving and buildings and so I want to emphasize this is an important decision, but let's also not make it bigger than it actually is. $40 million is a lot of money, but we spend almost 4 times that every year. So yes, it's big.
But part of my point is, in the last almost 6 years I've been on this board, we've been doing nothing but staying efficient, trying to make this government more efficient. I think we've been doing that.
Agreed.
And part of the thought in the future, in the presentation you made, I don't know how many months ago, that building was already part of the financial plans that we had in place.
Right.
And part of the repayment of that was selling that land and putting that on the tax roll.
Right.
So this isn't blindsiding us. We knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So I think to not move forward with this as we're planning or thinking it through would be a short-sighted.
And it's
you.
big, and it's a big number. So,
It is, but in the long run, if we keep efficient and, we're getting rid of other assets already to do this.
Yep.
So
agreed.
we're still staying efficient in my mind.
I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
Your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To go against the chairman, I ain't scared. I will tell you this right now. I've had many conversations with you. Reducing the footprint of the county has been a priority of mine from the beginning, since I've stepped foot on this board. And if you take into account the cost for the PAC for repair and all the rest of that, which has not worked in all the years, it's not a well-built building. It's solid enough, but it leaks it like a sieve. And then you also add in the tax rolls, as we discussed. I think this is the time to strike. It does make us more efficient. I believe we will have a good ROI on it. And so that's why I'm full steam ahead on this thing. Really.
Thank you.
So good presentation. And to me, it works. And I'm looking forward to working on this.
Supervisor Schwab.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not to be too repetitious, but a little bit. There are a lot of uncertainties in the future, and there always will be. If we wait another 5 years, there will still be uncertainties at that point. Staff has done a good job laying out the future, but we're not all experts on everything. And so it is time to get additional professional advice and figure out what we need to do for the right size, the right thing for Washington County, the right thing for its constituents, and the right thing for Washington County employees. Anytime anybody takes a big step, unless you're a complete idiot, there's some trepidation, right? And so, yeah, it is smart. It's wise to be a little bit cautious, but at the same time, it just needs to be done. And so, yeah, let's move forward.
Thank you all.
Any further discussion? There being none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes
Thank you.
unanimously. Our next item is ordinance 49-9 revision to amend it to add a charge for bounce checks. Motion by Supervisor Kelling, second by Supervisor Schwab. I think we have brief comments from Attorney Stern.
I'm here on behalf of the Treasurer Henke. It's just essentially a matter of us being able to raise the fee for when we have a bounce check that comes in because the county gets charged for that. So we want to pass that charge along to the individual who bounced that check with us. When a check bounces, the county has to pay that fee to the bank because we presented that check. And so we get fined, for lack of a better term. So we want to make sure we pass that along to the person who did not give us a check that we could actually cash.
Pretty simple.
No argument with that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Next up is 2025 resolution, grant application for state fiscal year GIS grant for 911 application. Motion by Supervisor Schwab, second by Supervisor Shadron. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. So we've applied for Next Gen 911 GIS grants in the past. Those were primarily for GIS remediation. The state is changing the program this year to recognize that many counties are kind of past that remediation and now more into a maintenance phase. So unlike in the past where we were unable to use grant funds to pay for existing staff to maintain this data, one of the big changes for this one is that we will now be able to do that. So we're hoping that this is a recurring grant in recognition of the increased amount of work my office takes on to maintain the 911 data. And we do maintain data countywide, so we do support both our public safety answering point in the sheriff's office, but also the city of West Bend dispatch as well. So, yep, grant to help us offset the cost for data maintenance.
Any questions or discussion? Supervisor Shadron.
Thank you, Chairman. The only question I have is it equates between 24,000 and 150. That's a big.
It's a big range. Absolutely.
Are you hoping for the 150, but expecting the 24? Is that how we're?
In order for them to get to the high end of that range, you would need counties who didn't apply.
Okay.
So I am not expecting on the high end. In order to be on the low end, you would need lots. There's two tracks. Track one are for the counties that still are in remediation. There's going to be priority on those. So if there are a number of counties that apply for a track one grant, and those grants are large dollar amounts, there'll be less to spread around to the counties who are in the track two. So I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I know that's not a very satisfactory answer, but
I'm just guessing too. So
yeah. And
thanks.
yeah, and the good news is the biennial budget wasn't dependent on getting this grant, so we're in good shape, and regardless of which way this goes, but I think it'll be somewhere in the middle.
That's good because it sounds like we got a $40 million building.
Yeah. So you do have to spend the grant on 911, but
Oh yeah. Yes, I agree.
pull 911 a lot, right?
Thank you.
Any further discussion? And we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Next up is the resolution setting the salaries for the constitutional officers that'll be elected this fall.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you need, so just to kind of give a little bit of background here, as the committee report says, we have to approve these every 4 years. So for these two constitutional officers, the sheriff and the clerk of courts, we've included some of the same data that you've gotten in the past. There's some data about what other counties might pay for these positions. For us, I think in terms of the numbers that are listed and recommended on the pages here, we were focused a little bit more on compression within our organization, a little bit more so than what others are doing. So you'll see some of the numbers here. The increase proposed for the sheriff amounts to a 10% increase in year one. So from 26 to 27 would grow 10% and then 3% thereafter. Moving into the clerk of courts, it's 5% in year one and 3% thereafter. And really the difference in the reason for the difference is that compression factor. We know that deputy sheriffs, corrections officers, and dispatchers are three of the most competitive salary ranges we have in this county and probably statewide. And so those pay ranges have grown much more quickly than some of the others that we've seen. And as you can imagine, the people that supervise those folks, those pay ranges have increased as well. So that effect in the sheriff's office has impacted everyone except for the sheriff himself or themselves, right? So that's the reason for the 10%. We didn't necessarily see the same phenomenon on the clerk of courts side. However, we were starting to lose ground in the market and against our own positions in that area. So 5% is a little bit of a correction, and then the 3% going forward.
Supervisor Schwab.
Thank you for the explanation and the logic behind that. I'm not opposed to this, but I am concerned. Have you thought about how an increase for these positions might be a catalyst for other county employees to say, well, they got a X amount of raise, how come, and to hold out for more? Is that going to be, what's your answer to that?
Sure. My answer to that, and we talked about that actually earlier today, and the sheriff was indexed at 3% going forward. We had years last year, employees got 5 on average, right, between COLA and merit. The year before was 4%, right? So they've been growing slowly but steadily, a little bit more quickly than that sheriff position. And so this is more of a correction. So that would be my response to that.
Thank you.
Sure.
This is an astute group. A very astute group. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
So kind of refresh my memory, and I hope you remember when we last set the sheriff's salary. I do remember there was a few board members that had some consternation about it. I can't remember though what the final of that was. Do you remember if we ended up keeping it as suggested, or were they able to cut it at all? Or?
Gosh, I didn't go back and look at all of.
Josh, remember.
Oh, I remember.
Oh, I know you remember.
I remember
Yeah,
too.
it was reduced. Staff came in with a proposal, it was 75th percentile, consistent with the clerk of courts and the other 3 constitutional officers that we control and all the other staff. That particular position was pulled out. One particular county supervisor went after it, and then it just kind of fell apart and I would say lost the votes.
You probably recall that.
Yeah, and I brought that up because I do remember it well, and to be honest, I didn't like it. And now that it's been stated in this committee hearing, hopefully, when it moves to the full board, they'll know that this is what happens. You get the compression because you're not making sure that people are being adequately compensated in the upper positions. Then underlings tend to get a whole lot closer, and you lose incentive to try and go for a higher position, because what's the point? I get much more work and no pay, so I hope that going forward with this, that
So to that point specifically, if Sheriff Schulteis chooses not to run for re-election in April, or I guess in June, and have to start circulating in April, his captains and some of his lieutenants, I think, today, yeah. So coming up in April, they would have to take a pay cut to run for sheriff. That's the system we've created because of that decision 4 years ago. I don't think we want that, no matter whether it's Marty Schulteis or it's soon to be Captain Kemps tomorrow morning or Captain Stacer or any lieutenant. Like, we've got to make it desirable for our own people.
I was against that then, and you can look it up, and I'm still against it today. No matter who the sheriff is.
Yeah, I agree. It's, they're looking at comparable counties. There are several counties, more than half, where the underlings are paid more than the sheriff. It's the way it works. And they still will make more than him, even with this pay raise. So,
Possible.
it's where we are. But I strongly support the sheriff's work, obviously, and, I support this motion, so. Anyone else wish to talk? In that case, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Oh, we don't have a motion.
A motion.
Supervisor Kelling, Supervisor Schwab. Excuse my faux pas. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And last up, we have an item, discussion piece that Attorney Stern will bring forward. This does not require a motion.
You will undoubtedly recall in December of last year, the county board adopted a resolution supporting the use of the existing transmission line route for the cables and so forth that'll be powering the data center that is being constructed in Port Washington. And that particular resolution was passed on to the Public Service Commission and has been logged amongst the many hundreds and hundreds of other comments and so forth that they've received. In January 29th, it was specifically, the county received a notice that if it wanted to perhaps petition the PSC to become an interested party or a party to the actual application process before the PSC, we could do so. And we needed to do that by the date of, I believe it was February 12th or 13th, depending on how you did the math. Problem was, we didn't get that notice or see it till the day before that deadline was to come and go. Normally, when we talk about getting involved in court matters or related matters, I like to come to the executive committee first and get your blessing to do that. Unfortunately, because time was of the essence, we couldn't do that. So what I did was I got in contact with Attorney Jake Curtis, who the county has worked with before. He's the former lead counsel for the DNR under Scott Walker, I believe it was. He also helped us do some recodification of some of our zoning ordinances in the past. We've worked with him for many years. In fact, he worked for a while with Andy Phillips at a Tolis law firm. Andy, of course, is the counsel for the Counties Association. We do a lot of work there. I had conversations with Attorney Curtis and Josh and Lonnie and I the night before that, or the night that actually that notice was due, to discuss whether or not the county should become involved in that particular proceeding. To be clear, it's a proceeding before the Public Service Commission, not a court of law, not an administrative law judge at this point. It was ATC's application before the PSC to establish where those transmission lines are going to run. We would like to see them continue along the existing path. They're looking for an alternative route that they believe is better to serve their needs. Attorney Curtis advised me that he represents the town of Trenton and he also represents Saukville. They filed motions to get involved in the case to become parties. He believed that it would serve the county well to do that because the comment that we provided the PSC via the resolution that was adopted would sit in that basket, but probably never really be seen by any of the commissioners. And he felt that if we really wanted our voices to be heard, it would be wise for us to file a motion to intervene in the action as an interested party and then have a seat at the table, which means that once this matter comes before the PSC for a hearing, we would be able to present some testimony from an individual that we choose as an expert. And we haven't decided who that would be just yet. In talking to Attorney Curtis, he thought it might be somebody who's intimately aware and involved in our 2050 plan, our comp plan, and how we already have these transmission lines. We factored those current lines into our comp plan. Why would you upset the apple cart by taking this alternate route, which could disturb other portions of the county? And so he also believed, and we talked about this, that given who we are, the county, we have some clout, if you will. So it's wise for us to be at the table because we may be able to sway this thing and may be able to sway it in our favor, meaning the county's favor, our community's favor. So I gave him the blessing to go ahead and file that motion to intervene. His name is on it, as is mine. He was able to do that because he was at his office that evening, he could get it done. And so we did. We filed it. We beat the deadline. Now the motion is sitting before the PSC. We don't know when they'll consider it. There are dozens of these requests to intervene. And so it could very well be that it takes weeks for them to take these up and decide. We're not guaranteed to be in. But again, given who we are, it does look pretty likely that we will be allowed in. And once we're in, then we can decide how involved we want to become. Do we want to go all in and conduct discovery and take depositions? It's probably overkill. We probably don't want to do that, but the option would be there. Or do we just want to show up the day of the hearing and present somebody to speak before the PSC? We can do that too. Attorney Curtis and I discussed the scope of his representation of the county. At this point, he filed the motion on our behalf. I told him we would take care of that. Depending on what we decide to do next, we'll engage him for further services, or he and I can double team it and figure out what's the best course of action. We might need to at some point decide whether all we want to do is talk about those transmission lines, or do we want to somehow talk about that substation that's going to be built in the town of Jackson? Is that something we want to weigh in on as well? We haven't considered that. I haven't even given that a moment of thought just yet, and I don't know what the town's position is on that. But again, having a seat at the table allows us the opportunity potentially to take that up. So I wanted to advise you of these things this evening, and let you know that's where we're at. I can give you regular updates as I have them. It might be quiet now for a while because we're not quite sure how long it'll take the PSC to move. You know, the data center is under construction in Port Washington, so it may well be they want to fast track this thing. And if so, we'll be ready. And if not, we'll stand by and wait. But that's where we are as of tonight.
Any questions? Supervisor Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Stern, this obviously came before my committee, and it had much discussion and debate, and people felt extremely strong on the committee that we should be following existing lines. And then when it came to the county board, it also had very strong feelings of preserving our farmlands and our natural areas. I think it's a slam dunk that you got on this thing. It is, it certainly was presented by the board as the will of this board on behalf of the people that we do want them to follow the existing lines. So I strongly encourage you to continue that fight. And I'm sure that the rest of the board will be with you on that.
I would like to also call out and thank Jamie, who's here today too, because she'd been keeping an eye on that all day and was very, very much in favor of us getting involved, and it really pushed us to take a closer look at that. And it was the right call to make, and I'm glad she did. We tried to reach out to Attorney Curtis during the day, but his schedule was busy, but we did finally get with him at night, and good thing we did, I think. So,
and I'm not surprised. Thank you, Ms. Ludwig. You're awesome. You know that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? You have our consensus. Thank you for the report.
thank you.